Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenosaga. It is a game and it has gay people in it. For this Pride Month, I'd like to assess how good of representation these characters are because I'm a big Xeno fan. I'm just going to be judging the representation on a case-by-case basis, my only real guiding rule being that only things that can be reliably proved in the texture count. After all, if it's more subtle, then it's probably only going to get picked up on by people who think that gay people are already the best or worst thing in existence. Also, I haven't played Gears. Wow, Infinity is inherently meaningless if it's just the same things happening again and again. Okay, I know what I said about stealthy, but this one's pretty obvious. I'd hate to make this video a video on the gender of A2, gent harder, but the one big piece of evidence for the platonic, or rather, stalgic interpretation is one line early in episode 1 where the full quote is,
I always thought of her like a daughter, or more like a friend, maybe. But
which really just suggests that Shin and Cosmos are close in some nondescript way. As for the term being gay specifically, there's various scattershot scenes like when she immediately gives up all preconceptions about facing her past when she learns where Cosmos is in that first memory space, or at the end of the first game when Nephilim tells her to see with her heart and she sees Cosmos, or whatever the Maiden of Mary nonsense is. As for how it is as representation, it's relegated to subtext with a character who, in the end, ends up with a man, but one must acknowledge that this is the early 2000s, so any amount of representation, especially outside of indie spheres, matters much more than its modern counterpart. But it can also be argued that, since this is from the 2000s, it's that much more important for it to be explicit representation, so viewers from an even more heteronormative world than today can pick up on it. Then again, they weren't exactly hiding it, what with this official piece of art. Besides, Shion's practically become an icon in the gay part of the Xeno community. It's worth noting that most crossover material Cosmos is featured in tends to reference the gayness in some way. 5 out of 10, it's good enough, but like 2000's good enough. Wow, the Catholic Church fucking sucks. So, Rex is polycool. This has been a contentious topic since, it's a polycool helmed by the male protagonist of 2, already a game that engages in the worst anime tropes, but I was fine with it since it doesn't really add any new bad to the situation. Pyra, Mithra, and Nia were already well known to be into Rex, and this gives a more satisfying ending than if he just ended up with Pyra. You could argue that it can alienate certain people from the series, but those are people who were already going to blame the series too much for the sins of 2, but that's enough on it as a story decision. How is it as representation? Well, read this first. Good. Even if it inspires feelings like that in presumably pro-queer people, I'd still say it's fine. It shows up, has a little fanfare, and is a footnote in one shot of the ending. Also, Nia is probably bisexual and also dating Pyra and Mithra. This is on the edge of too implied for this video, but most people in the fandom have come to a consensus that this is the case. I love this. Not only is the idea that Nia and Rex essentially share a polycule fun, but it breaks the idea that a polyamorous relationship is just one guy and his harem. 8 out of 10. Wow, wait, this is just the same thing again. But worry not, Xenoblade 2 has other gay people in it, and they are of very questionable quality. Mostly it comes down to very questionable choices chosen for the fun quirk these characters have that sets them apart from the others. Azami, bisexual and dangerously obsessed with their driver. Florin, definitely touching on some aspect of the trans experience and keeps getting free stuff given to them because people think he's a girl. Something that seems to be intentional on his end. Shiba, lesbian who spends most of her time in a bathtub and wants to start a harem. 3 out of 10, there's a lot of them. Rock is the main exception to this, and that's mainly by being confusing. Throughout the game he is a consistent he-him, but for some reason, mechanically, he has his own gender, of 4. I don't know what this means. Also there's Morag and Bridget, but I never once pinged the fact that they could be gay and still haven't, so I'm handing them off to an independent moderator. Wow, capitalism sucks. Finally, no more representation. Juniper's a fun character. Juniper doesn't really have much about them that makes them stand out from the other heroes, other than the fact that they are non-binary. My only problem with them is that their gender identity is mentioned indirectly exactly once during the whole game, and it isn't even during one of their side quests. That being said, if you've been in the Xenoblade online space long enough, someone will tell you either that they're non-binary, or that it's all headcanon, and calling someone a snowflake only to have their Wikipedia edit reverted in under 24 hours and the page protected. 9 out of 10, even though I don't think they're that compelling as a character. Wow, we mustn't leave behind our fellow man to reach an undefined perfect future. So, if you've been watching my videos for a while, thanks, but you would remember that last Pride Month I posted a video about A and her gender. Since that video, certain things have changed though. Mainly, the second Xenoblade 3 art book released and it in no uncertain terms refers to A as a woman. Well, it's in Japanese so the terms are at least a little uncertain to us, but from what I know it's a pretty one-to-one translation. There's a chance that this is just a 15 non-binary haircuts for women situation, where the person writing the bio earnestly slipped up and gendered them the wrong way, but combined with the gender value in the code, I think it's more likely that A is a woman. Doesn't mean she's not queer though. I still interpret her as being the same consciousness as Xenoblade 1's Alphys, which would mean that some kind of gender stuff is going on here. The way Rex explains A gender makes it seem to me that A is just gender fluid and, for the moment that the story occupies, identifying as a woman. I'm not gender fluid myself, so I may be a bit off, but that's what makes the most sense to me. But, as for how good A actually is as representation, well, this is a bit of a garbled mess. She's pretty good. No character that causes Rex to walk up to the camera and explain what non-binary is can be a bad representation. 8 out of 10. There is one problem with these representations overall that I find nagging though. There's no dudes. That's with the exception of Rock and Florin, who are the least implied out of everyone here, and Florin respectively.